Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, if you're a leader in any business today, you're hearing the words, the cloud, constantly. It's everywhere, but what does it actually mean for your bottom line, your strategy, and frankly, your ability to compete? Today, we're going to cut right through all that noise. This is your essential briefing on cloud computing. All right, let's jump right in.
First, let's just try to get our heads around the sheer scale of this thing. By 2027, the world is on track to spend $1.35 trillion on cloud services. That's not just a trend, that is a fundamental earthquake in how business infrastructure works. A number that big isn't something you can just ignore.
And that number leads us right to the core issue. See, adopting the cloud isn't about getting a leg up on the competition anymore. It's become table stakes. It's what you have to do just to avoid being left in the dust. The whole conversation has changed from if we should do this to how fast can we do this.
So let's frame this up the right way. We're not really talking about a piece of technology. We're talking about the new backbone for your entire business and why having a strategy for it is an absolute necessity. Here's where you can really see the shift. You remember the old way of doing IT, right? You'd spend a fortune on servers up front, wait months for them to be ready, and then you were stuck with whatever capacity you bought. Well, the cloud just flips that entire script. It moves you to a world where you can deploy things in hours, not months, scale up or down whenever you want, and pay for it like a utility. That's not just a change, that's a revolution in business agility.
And all that agility really comes from one simple but really powerful idea. So let's break down what the cloud actually is. The best way is to think of it as a new utility, just like electricity.
Which brings us to the big question. It can feel so abstract and technical, right? But I promise you, the concept is actually pretty intuitive once you hear the right analogy. And here it is. This is the best way to think about it. You don't build a power plant in your backyard just to turn the lights on in your office, do you? Of course not. You just plug into the grid. The cloud is exactly the same idea, but for computing. It's just on-demand access to servers, storage, software, all of it, over the internet. You consume IT like a utility.
And there are 5 key things that make that utility model work. You can get resources yourself instantly. You can access them from anywhere. You're sharing a gigantic pool of hardware with others, which makes it cheap and efficient. You can scale up for a big event and then scale right back down. That's rapid elasticity. And crucially, you only pay for what you actually use. It's a measured service.
Okay, so now that we've got the what, let's look at the how. Think of this next part like a strategic menu. As a leader, you've got a few core choices, and each one means something different for your business.
Let's use an analogy. Infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, is like leasing a plot of land. The provider gives you the land and the utilities, but you have to build the entire house yourself. Platform as a service, or PaaS, is like leasing a fully equipped workshop. The tools and machinery are all there waiting for you. You just bring your raw materials and expertise to build your product. And then there's software as a service, SaaS. That's just like renting a fully furnished move-in-ready office. You just show up and get to work. See the pattern? The further right you go, the more the provider manages for you.
Your other big choice is where this all lives. You've got the public cloud, think Amazon, Google, Microsoft. The benefits are huge scale and lower costs. The trade-off is you have a bit less control. On the other hand, you can have a private cloud, which is all yours. You get total control and top-tier security. But, yeah, it's going to cost you more.
And that's exactly why the hybrid cloud model has become so incredibly popular. You don't have to choose. A hybrid strategy lets you mix and match. You can put your super sensitive data on a private cloud while running your website on the public cloud to handle traffic spikes. You really can get the best of both worlds.
Okay, now for what I think is the most important part of this whole explainer, the so what. Because this isn't just about upgrading your IT department. This is about real, tangible business transformation. This is the stuff that belongs in the boardroom.
When you really boil it down, the cloud gives your business an advantage in 3 huge ways. First, agility. You can bring new ideas to market in weeks, not years. Second, scalability. You can handle that massive sales rush on Black Friday without your website even breaking a sweat. And third, cost. You stop writing huge checks for capital expenses and move to a flexible, pay-for-what-you-use model.
And think about this. When your IT team isn't spending all its time just keeping the lights on, patching servers and managing hardware, what do? They innovate. We're talking about a 70% reduction in time spent on routine grunt work. That time gets refocused on building things that actually move the needle for your business.
Now, a quick but absolutely vital point on security. You have to understand the shared responsibility model. Here's the deal. The cloud provider is responsible for security of the cloud. That means the physical data centers, the servers, the networks. But you are always 100% responsible for security in the cloud. That means your data, who you give access to, how you configure everything. Getting this distinction right is everything.
So, you see the potential. Where do you begin? Let's wrap this up by talking about your specific role as a leader in guiding this journey and making sure it's a success.
Look, a successful migration follows a clear map. You don't just jump in. You start by assessing what you have. Then you plan and design your future state. Then, and this is key, you run a small pilot. Test things out, learn your lessons. After that, you can begin the full migration, usually in waves. And finally, you never stop optimizing, always looking for better performance and lower costs. It's a smart, phased approach that reduces risk.
But knowing the map is only half the battle. You also have to know where the traps are. Don't just copy-paste your old apps into the cloud. That's called lift and shift, and it's a classic mistake. Make sure this project is tied to a real business goal, not just an IT project. And never, ever underestimate the need for governance, new skills, and security from day one. Avoiding these pitfalls is just as important as following the steps.
And that all brings us to the one final powerful question. The goal here isn't just to be using cloud services. The real goal, the true prize, is to be transformed by them, to fundamentally change how your company operates, innovates, and wins. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Where is your organization today? Are you just using the cloud, or are you truly being transformed by it?